Wade, your stream is live now, and now you can also make me a co-host.
There you go. You're good.
Thanks a lot.
Good morning. Hi, Susie. You there?
Good morning. It's Evelyn.
Hi, Evelyn. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. And you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Oh, there you are. Okay, great. Hey, good morning. Vivian? How are you? Sunday morning here in North Carolina, but the weatherman said it's supposed to be raining, so I'm not sure what's going to be going on out there, but
All right.
we're inside anyway, so it doesn't matter. Terry, are you there? Can you hear us? I'm just calling names to try and make sure everybody's mic is working. So if you can hear me, just unmute and say hi when I call your name. So I know that we're getting through.
Okay, I forgot to plug it in this, and I noticed that too.
Hey, Christina.
Yes.
Welcome back. Good to see you again. Let's see who else is here. Trina, can you hear us?
Hello again.
Good morning. Good to have you back. There's Susie. Hey, Susie. Got the camera on. Thanks. Welcome. Let's see. Denise is connecting in.
Hi, Wade.
Hi, Denise. Welcome back.
Thank you.
How are you this morning?
I'm good. Ready to go on Excel.
There we go. All right. Started with Excel. A great way to start the day.
No, I did do exercise with Stacy this morning.
Oh, did you? Oh, you're better than I am. You got your exercise already today.
Mm-hmm.
She'll get you moving.
Yes, she will.
Okay, right, so we've got a few more people probably going to join us here midstream, but I'm going to get started getting all the technology going. It takes me a couple of minutes, and then so we can get started on time. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And so you should be able to see my slides now while I move your pictures over to my other monitor so I can see you over here. Looks like Adrienne has joined us. Can you hear me, Adrienne?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
And okay. All right. So just a reminder that I will be muting everybody when the class starts. And during the class, if we start to pick up any background noise or echoes or anything like that. So just a reminder to check your mute to see if you're muted before you ask a question or make a comment. If you're muted, just go ahead and unmute and ask away. You don't need to raise your hand or anything. Just unmute and ask away. We like to keep things informal here. And check something off here. And I'm going to go ahead and open up the chat as well. So if anyone is having trouble with your microphone, you can reach us in the chat, or if there's anything else you want to communicate with via the chat, it is now open. Todd from our TA team is here. He will be monitoring the chat for me to make sure I don't miss any questions. So if you have any issues with your audio, video, or any other questions, you can always reach Todd in the chat. Thanks for joining us, Todd. Always appreciate your help. And with that, I think we are ready to go. I see a few other people have joined us this morning. Thanks everybody for joining. Just check off a couple more names and we'll get started. Pat and Teresa. Okay, so let's get started. This is Excel Basics, and just to kind of set it in context, there's two Excel classes. Excel Basics, this class doesn't assume that you know anything about Excel. We start from the beginning here, but it's appropriate for anyone that's maybe even used Excel before, but it's been a while. I need a little refresher. Then we have Excel Intermediate that kind of picks up and gets into some of the more complex pieces as well. So welcome to the class. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoy it. My name is Wade Yarbrough, and I'll be your guide for the class today. A little about my background. I was born and raised in a small town of 500 people in West Tennessee called Mason, Tennessee, small farming community. I now live in Southport, North Carolina, just one state over. I have my doctorate in experimental psychology. Did most of my work with pigeons, so I don't do psychoanalysis, so don't have to worry about that. And I have taught psychology off and on during my career, but most of my career was spent designing, installing, and training users on hospital information systems. I had a minor in computer science, so I've always sort of bounced back and forth between psychology and technology. And I love teaching here at Get Set Up because I get to teach people like you that are in the class because you're interested in the class, not because someone made you take the class, which is what I dealt with for a lot of my career. And that's what we try to do at Get Set Up, is to create an environment where you can take classes you like with other people that are interested in the same topic. You can hear each other's questions, interact with each other, interact with the guide. That's really the hallmark of what we try to do, is make it a comfortable, interactive environment. That's why we do ask people to turn their cameras on if you're okay with that. It kind of adds to that interactive environment, but it certainly is not obligatory. The session is being recorded and any participant can request a copy of the recording, just send an email to help@getsetup.io requesting a copy of the recording. Be sure to include the class name and date. And I'm going to put that in the chat quickly. In case you don't have that, that way you can copy and paste it directly out of the chat. We're also live streaming the class this morning, so I do want to welcome anyone joining us via live stream. Thanks for joining. Hope you enjoy the class as well. However, the only way to get that interactive experience I just described is to go to our website and register for the class there. And finally, we aren't paid to promote any of the products we train on. We are purely trainers. So let's look at the agenda for today. Since, as I mentioned, this doesn't assume that you have any experience with Excel or spreadsheets in general, we're going to start with the basics. what Excel is, how to get access to Excel. Then we'll talk about how to create and save Excel workbooks, how to use simple formulas and functions, and how to enter, format, and copy information in spreadsheets. So what is Excel? Excel is a powerful spreadsheet program. And like all spreadsheet programs, it lets you enter and manipulate data in the form of numbers, text, and formulas. Microsoft Excel is the undisputed leader of spreadsheets. It wasn't the founder. If anyone remembers, there was something called VisiCalc, I think was the first spreadsheet program. The next king of the hill was Lotus 1-2-3, if you remember that one. But Excel's been king of the hill for quite a while now. But there's some stiff competition. Google Sheets is gaining popularity. We also have a class on Google Sheets if you're interested in seeing Google Sheets. It looks and works very similarly to Excel, but there are some differences between the two. One of the biggest being that Google is free. So how do you get access to Excel? It is part of Microsoft 365. That is what the full Office suite. It includes Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, OneDrive. It also includes 1 terabyte. That's 1,000 gigabytes of storage. So you get a pretty good package for $70, but it does cost you $70 a year. We do have a class called Microsoft 365 Overview. So if you're not familiar with Microsoft 365 and want to learn more about it before you sign up, that's a great class that will explain how that all works. There's also a free version called Office Online, but that's not the full-blown version of Excel. It's a stripped-down version. So for the class today, we're going to be using the full-blown Microsoft 365 version. In the email that's going to come out after class, I'll have links to both Microsoft 365 and the free version, so you can do a little bit of research on those on your own as well. But again, we have this class that goes into that in a lot of detail. Any questions about Excel before we jump into actually using it? And as always, when you have questions or comments, please feel free just to go ahead and unmute and ask your question at any time. If I go over something too quickly, unmute and say, can you go over that again? I missed that. Always happy to hear your questions and comments. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Excel. Now, if you have Microsoft 365, there's 2 ways to get to Excel. You can get to anything through the Start menu down here in the lower left where I'm pointing now. So if I click there, if you go to E, Excel will be there underneath the E category. I can just click there and open it. You can also save it down here to your taskbar, which is quicker and easier. That's the way I normally execute it. And this brings up the Excel home screen. And there's 2 sections to the home screen. The top part is how you can create a new workbook. And the lower section is where you can get to workbooks that you already have created and have access to. We'll start at the top, since if you are new to Excel, you're not going to have anything down here to look at. 2 ways to create a new spreadsheet. You can just create a blank spreadsheet. Yeah, Christina, go ahead and unmute. If you can't unmute, hold the space bar, Christina. I think that'll unmute it as well.
Space.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now.
I'm wondering, was I supposed to be on my own Excel?
If you have it, you would have to have purchased Microsoft 365 to have Excel. So if you don't have,
I'm at a agency's computer, so I think
Okay.
I'm sure they have.
you can open it if you want to. This is more of a watch what I'm doing than a follow along class. So it's probably easier just to watch what I'm doing and then try it after class. Yeah. So again, 2 ways to create a new workbook. You can create a blank workbook, and I'll click that, and it's just as it says, it opens up a blank workbook where you can start. I'm going to close this one down and open the other way just to show you this is the other way to get in. If you save it down to your taskbar, that's the quickest way to get in. The other way you can start a new workbook is from a template. And you'll see several templates here on the home screen, but then there's a link here to go into many more templates. And so if you scroll through, you'll see there's lots of different types of templates. Templates are pre-formatted workbooks based on some topic, like creating an invoice, doing a budget, weekly attendance reports. There's lots of different examples here. There's calendars, balance sheets, etc. So you can take a look at these after class. They're at the top here. They're separated into business-related templates versus personal templates versus planners, personal planners and trackers, lists, budgets, etc. Tons and tons of spreadsheets. You can actually search if you're looking for something in particular. You can search for a particular template. I'm going to just pick the simple personal budget as a for instance to show you what a template looks like in case you're not familiar with the idea. So I clicked on that. It brings up a little sheet here to tell me a little bit more about what it is, how you would use it to make sure that's the one you want. If that's the one you want, you can just click create and it will create that template. So it's taken that template, copied it into a workbook and put it on your computer. There's two sheets or tabs, and you just click here to go from one to the other. So the first sheet is just, again, them telling you a little bit about the template, but then you click the tab beside it to go to the actual sheet that has the template. So you can see this has for each month in the year a column, and the rows are different types of income, different types of expenses. So you would just go in and enter the information into the appropriate columns. And then down at the very bottom, it summarizes everything for the month. And over at the other end, it has annual totals. It even has a little graph there. So that's a template. You can use it just like it is, or you can go in and manipulate them. After the class today, you'll know how to manipulate the spreadsheets and add your own formulas and equations. But this is usable just as it is. Questions about templates? Okay, I'm going to just click back home then. And actually, I'm going to just close this one down and start a new spreadsheet. It's a little easier. So that's how you create a new workbook. Down here, once you've created some workbooks, they'll be down here in this list. There's 3 tabs here as well. These show you all the spreadsheets you've worked on and have access to. Yeah, Denise.
That template, did it have all the formulas and with the new sheet? Did it have that the formulas from the budget?
That template, yeah, it had all the all those totals and everything were formulas built into the template. So
Okay, so if I wanted to start one, I would go to a new sheet and it would have all the formulas in there.
yeah, so if you wanted to create a simple budget using this template,
Yes.
you would just click on this simple personal budget and say create. And that
Okay.
would then bring you up. Now, and this is just in here to kind of show you how it works. So you would go in here and delete this because that's not really your information. And then you can just start typing in your information.
Oh, okay. I
They
thought
just
on-
put that in there
I
to
thought
kind
on
of show
the-
you how it works.
Oh, okay. I thought
And-
on the start, the new sheet, it would have all the formulas and all I had to do is just put in my information.
Yeah, because see, here's a formula that totals up your revenue, and here's the formula that totals up your expenses. And so it's already got the formulas in there. So you would
Oh,
just,
okay.
so you
So I
have
would
to,
just overlay my information in
yeah,
there.
just delete that stuff they put in there and start keying in your information.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay, so down at the bottom here again are the workbooks that you have created or have access to. And this first tab just shows them in reverse chronological order. The last one that I worked on will be at the top of the list, most recent one. There's also a pinned category. What pinned means is that, let's see, I created a workbook for us to use in class today, get set up Excel 610. If I want to pin this spreadsheet, I can come over here to this little pin icon. And if you hover over it, it says pin this item to the list. So if I click that, it's going to put it now under this tab of pinned spreadsheets. There it is right there. So what you can do is you may have 100 spreadsheets in here, but maybe there's 5, 6, 10 that you use not every day, so they're not going to be at the top of the list, but you use them maybe twice a year, but you want to be able to find them when you need them. The best way to do that is to pin it. So then if you want to get to that one that you use regularly, but not every week or every month even, it's in here. If I change my mind and I don't want to have it pinned any longer, I can take it out of the pin list. And again, this is like just pinning something onto a bulletin board. I would click here now to unpin it. So I'm going to take that GSU Excel 610 out of the pinned list. It's no longer here. It is still over here in my list of workbooks. The third tab up here is shared with me. You can share spreadsheets with other people. Other people can share spreadsheets with you. So these are spreadsheets I can access because someone, Liz Maurice, created this spreadsheet, but she shared it with me. So I can go in and open this and work on that spreadsheet. I'm gonna go back to the recents. So if there's no questions, any questions about this basic page before we jump into a spreadsheet and get started? If there's no questions, let's go ahead and get into the meat of the matter, which is why you're here, is to know how to use a spreadsheet. So I'm going to go ahead and open the spreadsheet that I have set up for today. And in terms of structure, again, you can see there's a number of tabs down here at the bottom. And each one of these is a separate sheet. Multiple sheets make up a workbook. So we're going to start with this first sheet here, the first tab. And briefly, the way the Excel is structured is across the very top, you have the different pages. Each page has sections in here with groups of commands, and then there's individual commands within the groups. So these are all the page layout related commands. These are the insert related commands. Again, categorized by groups, add-ins, chart related commands, etc. And we'll be going through there today. You can also put some shortcuts up here. And if you want to add something to your shortcuts, right now the save is up here. This is the undo. I'll show you that one. But you can go down here and add other things. So if you wanted to have a quick print up here in your shortcut, you can add that to your shortcuts. So it takes some of the ones from this ribbon, it's called, that you use a lot, and you can add them up here so you can get to them quickly without having to click over here and then click over here and then click here. You can get to the ones you want to use a lot. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the home. The way these spreadsheets are constructed is they're based on rows and columns. The intersection of a row and column is called a cell. So this is a cell. The cell is named by the column and row. So this is cell C8. Luckily, it tells you that up here in the upper left in the name box. So if I click over here, I can see that I'm in K14 without having to do this to figure out where I am. Cells are the only place you can enter information. There's 4 different types of information you can enter into a cell: numbers, text, dates, and formulas. We'll talk about each one of those. One thing you have to get used to with spreadsheets, and it's a little confusing for people that are new to spreadsheets, is that what you're seeing here in the cell isn't necessarily the contents of the cell. This is the formatted view of the contents. What's actually in that cell is 5.278456. You see that here in the formula bar. What I am showing is 5.28. That's because I decided to format this to only show the first two decimal places. I can change that by clicking here and moving the number of decimal places out or in. So that's changing the format. It's not changing the contents. Does that make sense? Now, if I double click on this cell, it will show me the actual contents. And I can change the contents down here, or I can change the contents up here. But then it comes back to show it the way that I have it formatted. And we're going to talk a lot about formatting a little bit later. Text is the other thing you can enter, words. And pretty much with words, what you see is what you get. The contents and what you see are the same with text. Dates are really a special type of number. It works the same way. What's actually stored in that cell is 1/2/2020. But I formatted it to say Thursday, January 2nd, 2020. So again, I'm formatting the contents to be different. You can change that formatting by coming up here. And so I'm currently using the long date. I can switch and use a short date. If I want to put it back like it was, this is the undo. Very popular command. So that puts it back the way it does. So if you ever change something and you decide, oops, I don't like that, you can put it back where it was. So those are dates. And the last thing, and this is really the heart and soul of spreadsheets, you can create formulas. So for example, again, here, 525 is what I'm seeing. The actual contents of that cell is this formula. 12 plus 3 times 35. Again, I can double click on the cell. It will show me that formula. I can change the formula. It'll change what I see. We're going to talk a lot about formulas on the next page. But questions in terms of the basic things you can put into cells. All right, let's dig down into formulas then. This is really the heart of spreadsheets. And let's start with some very simple formulas and build to the ones you're going to use more frequently. So let's start up with a very simple formula. And formulas really are like putting information into a calculator. It's one way to think about it. So I want to add 42 and 148. So first thing I do is I click where I want to put the formula. And formulas always start with an equal sign. That tells Excel I'm going to enter a formula as opposed to entering text or numbers. And I just type 42 plus 148. Just like that, if I was using a calculator, I would type 42 plus 148. The only difference is I would hit equals at the end instead of at the first. Here I type enter to store that. And there's my formula. Here's the result of that formula. What I would see on my calculator in the display. I can double click here and see the formula down here as well. You don't do this type of formula very often in a spreadsheet. Normally, when you're working in spreadsheets, you're working with different cells. So an example of that is maybe I want to take the contents of this cell, B3, and divide it by 10. So I'm going to create another formula. So I'm going to say equal. I could type B3, but you can also just click on B3, which for me is easier and less likely to have a typo. Then I just do a slash for divide and put 10, hit enter. So here's my formula. B3 divided by 10. So B3 is 190. 190 divided by 10 is 19. So that formula is correct. But in this case, I'm referencing a cell and a number. The next level of complexity up is I can have a formula that only references other cells. So if I want to know what if I want to subtract this cell from this cell, I can just say equals and then click on B3 and then subtract B5 from B3. Hit enter, and that's 171. So here's my formula. So the contents of cell B6 is the contents of B3 minus the contents of B5. Now the power of this becomes, since both of these formulas reference this cell, if I change this cell to be 389, both of these cells change as well because they're both referencing this cell. So you could have a spreadsheet with 400 different cells all referencing this cell. I change this cell, all those other 400 cells automatically change. A good example might be, I've got a big spreadsheet here calculating payments based on an interest rate. And this is the interest rate. If I change the interest rate from 6% to 5%, it'll recalculate the entire spreadsheet and show me everything with that different interest rate. Now, I mentioned that dates are really numbers, so you can do math with dates. So if I want to know how many days is it from December 4th to December 24th, I could make a formula just like all the other formulas we've done. I can say I want to take contents of this cell minus the contents of this cell, and it'll tell me it's 20 days. If this cell changes to be 2022, it changes and tell me now it's 750 days from this date to that date. So it's handy to be able to calculate the number of days between two dates. Questions about formulas? Is that making sense? Okay, let's keep going if that's making sense. And we're going to talk about something called functions next. And we're going to go into...
Oh, I'm sorry. I was
Just-
not muted. or I
Okay,
was
go ahead,
muted.
Trina.
I didn't know if you could do the dates again. I never done that before. Subtract one day from the other. And do you use the equal sign for that too?
Yep, it's just a formula to Excel. This is just a number. It doesn't know it's a date.
Oh,
So you-
okay.
So you're treated like any other number. I just said equal B8 minus B9,
Yes.
B8 minus B9.
Okay.
And so again, if you change either one of these, it automatically changes the result.
Okay. Yeah, never tried that one before. Thank
Yep,
you.
it can come in really handy.
Yes.
Right, great. All right, so let's get a little more into a realistic scenario. So I've got a very simple table here, but this is what you're typically doing in spreadsheets. You have a table, and this is a table for Wade's Club, my club. And these are called the column headers. So the column headers are defining what information I'm storing in that column. So I've got the member's full name, what tier they're in. So there's 3 different tiers in terms of how much they're paying and what privileges they have, the monthly fee they're paying. And then I've got a column set up for percent of total. We'll fill that in later. So as I add members, I add them to my table. So I want to get some information about my members. So one thing I may want to know is how many members do I have? And of course, I can look here and tell I've got 4, but let's say I've become successful and I've got over 200 members. I can't just glance at my spreadsheet and see how many members I've got. I could create a formula and say equals B8 plus B7 plus B6 plus B5. But then every time I add a new row for a new member, I've got to change my formula. That's not very practical. So what Excel has is something called a function, which is like pre-formatted formulas. So if I want to have a function that'll tell me the count of my members, it's up here, this sum symbol. If you click the little arrow right beside it, it will show you the most commonly used ones. I can also click here to get more functions. But here's the one I want, count numbers. So I click that. Excel guesses what I'm trying to count, and it guessed absolutely correct. In this case, I want to count all the numbers from here to here, the rows in my table. So here's the function, equals to count. That's the name of the function. These are called arguments. So you're basically saying, I want to count everything from B4 to B8. B4 is here, B8 is here. Hit enter, and there's the answer. The right answer is 4. And there's my function. Always starts with an equal sign, works like formulas, but these are, as I said, you can think of them as templated formulas. Do a couple more to try and make this make more sense. I also want to know how much money. Yes.
I'm a little confused. The answer looks, you said it's 4, the count is 4?
Counting how many rows have a number in it, not
Oh,
summing the
okay.
numbers,
Okay,
counting the
okay.
numbers.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So I'm just counting how many members I've got. Yeah, that's a little confusing. Thanks for clarifying that. Now here I do want to sum up the contents of the cells. I want to sum up how much money I made. So I'm going to grab another function up here, and this time I want the sum. And it guesses, and it was pretty close, but not quite right. I don't want this cell in my formula. I just want to have these cells. So I can just click on the first cell and hold down the left mouse button and then drag down to show it which cells I want to include. And now that is correct. It equals the sum C4 through C8, C4 through C8. That's correct. So I'll hit enter, and there's the sum of those 5 cells, even though one of the cells is empty. Doesn't matter. Let me do one more. Oh yeah, Christina, do you have a question? Okay, unmute or hold the space bar.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
What's the name of that like sideways M that you go to sometimes?
It's called the sum symbol, but you just got to kind of
That's how-
memorize it. Yeah.
That's how you pull some of your answers?
Yeah, just you click here, and it just has all the, this is the function symbol in Excel. So it has all the functions are under here.
And what did you call it again?
This is something I call a sum, but this is the functions. In Excel, these are called functions.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm going to add another function, and I've been putting it underneath the column, but you can put it anywhere you want to. So wherever you want the result of the function to be put on your spreadsheet, you can just click there. So I want to know what's the average amount that my members are paying. I'm just going to put it over here. I could put it over here. You can put it anywhere you want it. I'm going to click here, come up here to my functions again. And this time I want average. And it guesses, and it guessed way off on that one. But no problem. I just click here, hold the left mouse button, scroll down, release the left mouse button. And now here I want the average of C4 through C8. And there's the average. If the function you want is not in this short list, you can click more functions, and you can go in and it'll show you functions here. You can also search by name. We get into this in the intermediate class. If you want to get into the exhaustive list, you can click formulas up here. And here's lots of different functions: financial functions, logical functions, text-based functions, date and time-based functions, et cetera, et cetera. There are a gazillion functions in Excel. So we're going to keep it simple today and just go over some of the basic math functions. But just so you know, there's lots of other stuff out there. So questions about functions, is that making sense? All right, let's keep going. I'm going to show you one other formula. And this one's a little more complex, but it's one that you use a lot in spreadsheets. I want to know percent of total, which is a fairly common thing you want to know. You've got a row, and you want to know, in this case, of my total $606, what percentage of that is John Doe contributing? So that's a fairly simple mathematical formula. You say equal, it's going to be a formula. what John Doe pays divided by the total payments. 33%. And that looks about right. Okay. You can copy formulas two different ways. I'll show you both. One way to copy a formula is to grab this bottom right corner. You can see when I move my cursor to the bottom right corner, it changes into a black plus instead of a big white one. Once it changes to the black plus, I just hold the left mouse button and drag down, and it will copy my formula down. But I got a problem. It says I'm dividing by 0. Okay, let's check and see. Let's double check this one. C4 divided by C10, C4 divided by C10 looks good. Let's look at this one. C5 divided by C11. C5, that's right. C11, that's wrong. I don't want to divide by C11. I want to divide by C10. What happens when you copy a formula down? It increments all the cell references in that formula. So C4 goes to C5. Let's go to this one. C4 goes to C5. C10 goes to C11. But there's a way to tell it, don't change one of them. In this case, I don't want to change the denominator. And this is just rote memory. You got to memorize, you put a $sign in front of the letter and a $sign in front of the number. That's called an absolute reference. That's saying, when I copy this formula, don't change the bottom one. Leave it C10, change all the other ones. Here's the other way you can copy a formula. I can just hold the left mouse button, select these cells, and then do the keyboard shortcut of Control plus D, Control down, and it copies my formulas down. Lots of keyboard shortcuts in Excel. People that use Excel a lot love the keyboard shortcuts. If you're new to it, a lot of people find it easier to remember the bottom right, dragging the bottom right, whichever one works for you. And now that looks right. Now I can't tell for sure, I'm not that good with mental math, but what I can do is I can do a real quick formula, because I know that if that formula is correct, this total should be 100%. So I can just grab a quick formula and say, sum that up for me and make sure my formula is correct. It guessed correctly. It is 100%. So, okay, my formula is right. Questions? Okay, so that's a quick overview of formulas and functions. Again, we pick up here in the intermediate class and we get into text-based functions and logical functions, and you can do tons of things with functions. Last thing I want to cover today, again for introductory purposes, is formatting. This table looks pretty nice, right? Here's where my tables look when I'm first getting started. Normally, I put in all my formulas first to make sure all the formulas are working, and then I worry about making it pretty. So my formulas are in there, they're working. It's kind of ugly. So let's make this one look better. I'm gonna go over this fairly quickly because a lot of this is gonna be familiar to you from doing word processing. So for instance, I want to bold this first column. So I would click the column. I'd come up here to the bold and bold it. Now I could do that for each cell. That would take me a while if I had 40 cell columns. Luckily in spreadsheets, you can work on an entire row just by clicking on that row. And now if I bold that row, it bolds everything in that row. Much faster than doing them one at a time. You can do the same thing with columns. You can also select a range of cells. So let's say I want to center these cells. So I select the cells I want to center, come up here and click center, and it's centered all of those. So you can either take an entire row, an entire column, or a range of cells in a column, or a range of cells in a row. So let's keep cleaning it up. These are all currency, but only one of them is showing as currencies. So I'm going to click on the whole column this time and come up here to my formatting group and say, make these be currency. And now they're all flagged with the $sign. In my club, I don't charge fractions of a dollar, so I'm going to just round this off. So I'm going to say round this to the nearest dollar. So it doesn't take up as much space, a little easier to read. Now the average can still be a fraction of a dollar. So let's make that one just be a normal. Okay. And I got hashtags here now. And what that is telling me is that the result can't fit in this space. It's not a problem. There's a couple of ways I can change the column width. The easiest way probably is just to come up here to the top of the column. And first it's pointing down, showing me which column I'm in. But you'll notice as I move to the boundary between B and C, it changes to arrows pointing either direction. Once I get that arrows pointing either direction, I can hold the left mouse button and drag it over and change the column width. Now it fits. But I got a lot of extra white space. So here's a trick. If you do the same thing, get the arrows pointing in different directions and double click, it will automatically make it the size to accommodate the largest cell in the column. I got the same problem over here with full name. I'm going to do the same trick, double click. This is especially helpful for something like names, because here I could see the column, so I could manually eyeball it and kind of get it to where I wanted it. But if I've got 225 names here, the 215th one may be the longest name. So if I just try to eyeball it and set it to work for the ones I can see, I'm going to be chopping off one further down. So by doing the double click, it's going to automatically adjust it for the longest name out of those 200 plus members. See a question in the chat about whether Google Sheets uses functions, and yes, Google Sheet does use functions. Google Sheets doesn't have as much stuff as Excel does, so there may be some functions and features that Excel has that Google doesn't, but Google definitely has all the functions that I've shown you today. So everything I've done on this spreadsheet in Excel, I could do the same thing in Google with Google Sheets. But good question. Okay, so let's keep cleaning it up. We're getting closer. These should be percentages. That one's easy. I'll just click this whole column, say make it a %. Now, if I want to change, maybe take it out to 1 decimal place, I can do that as well. Now I've got a problem here. I can't see this whole column header. I could use my trick that I used before. That works, but I got lots of ugly white space here, and I don't like lots of ugly white space. So I'm going to put it back like it was by clicking my undo. There's another thing you can do, which is to wrap. And so if you come up here to where it says wrap text, I can wrap the text, which means it'll take those 2 words and put one over the other one. I'm still within a single row, so it didn't move it to a second row. It just made this row taller. You can change row heights the same way I change column widths. I can grab it and pull it down if I want to grab it and pull it down. But here it automatically breaks it out so that it fits. I probably want to center it as well. And that looks pretty good. Now I've got the same thing here. It's a little hard to tell, but the A and the L are bleeding over to the other cell. If I put something in that cell, you'll see it. It's chopping it off. So I can do the same thing I did, those 2 or 3 clicks that I did. But if you get one column header the way you want it, and there's others that have the same problem, what you can do is just click on this little paintbrush, which is called a format painter. And it's saying, take the formatting I did in this cell and paint it over here. So it automatically wrapped the text, centered the contents in the column, saved me several clicks. It would save me a ton of clicks if I had a whole row of column headers and I needed to make this change to all of them. Instead of doing them one at a time, I could just say paint that through to all these columns. So it's a nice shortcut. All right. We'll do a couple more things here. Again, I'm going kind of quickly. If I'm going too fast, please stop me. I want to draw lines around all the items in the actual table. So I'll select my table. This is the actual table, the table being where I'm entering my information. These are functions referencing the table. And to draw lines around those cells, I click here. Borders, there's lots of different types of borders, but what I want is all borders. I want to draw lines around everything. So we're getting closer. Let's put a little color behind these column headers to make them stand out. So I'd select the cells I want to act on, come up here to the fill color and pick a, let's make this one be green instead of blue, a little light green background. So the last thing I want to do is to do something with my title. So I probably want to bold it. May want to make it a little bit larger than the contents of the table. I could even change the font. I can do that if I want to as well. Make it be a different font. So that looks better, but I want it to be centered at the top of my table. And there's not a single cell that is at the center of my table. What I can do is you can merge cells into one bigger cell. So what I can say is take these 4 cells and merge them. Here's my function for that, merge and center. So if I click that, it's going to take those 4 cells and make them one big cell, center my contents. So now if I change anything, this always recenters to the center of that table. Questions?
Wait, suppose I want to play, but I don't want to mess up this what do you call it? A book? You said a book?
A sheet. This is a sheet, yeah.
But I want to, I just want to play, but I want to keep, the original intact. So
Okay.
how do I copy it?
Yep. So if I want to take this sheet that's called formatting. And
No,
make
I'm
it-
talking about all of that, because all of that makes
Oh, the
up.
whole workball.
Yeah.
Let me answer both. Let me do both questions quickly. Let's say I want to play with this one, but I'm not. I think I like. I don't want to lose this one. I know this one is good, but I want to play with it and see if I can make it better.
Right.
Just
right.
this one sheet. Yeah, I'm gonna do one sheet, then I'm gonna do the whole workbook.
Okay.
To do that, what I can do is click down here, right click on this sheet and say move or copy. And then here I'm going to say create a copy, and you tell it where you want to put it. So I want to create a copy. And now I've got formatting and I've got formatting 2. They're the same. So I can now play with this one if I want to make some changes. I want to insert some extra rows and do some other stuff on it. In this one, this is my play version. I haven't messed up my real working one. And you can just click on this and rename it. So I could call this formatting test. So I want to test out some stuff. So that's one way if I just want to take one sheet in my workbook and play with that. Oh, and I didn't show you that, but one thing this is also how you can add members. So I've got some new members, so I can add now Judy Smith. When I put a 1 here, my count goes up to 5. When I put her payments in here, my rates went up. It changes the sum, changes the total here, and I can now copy this formula down, etc. So that's kind of how you would use this. You can add rows, you can delete rows. If Mary leaves my club, I can just clear her contents out. And in the intermediate class, I'll show you how you can sort this all and get it in different orders and things. But the other thing you're saying, I want to make a whole copy of this entire workbook. To do that, I come up here under File and just do Save a Copy. I would give it a different name. Test copy. So I'm going to create another file and hit save, and it's going to create another whole spreadsheet called Get Set Up 610 Test Copy that I could go in now and work with that one. So if I come back to my files here, here's my Get Set Up, my original one. Here's my copy that I can play with. Did that answer your question, Denise?
Thank you.
Okay, great. We're just about out of time, but any other questions quickly before we wrap up?
How did you get to the copy, the test copy again?
Where I copied the whole workbook. This one, File, Save a Copy.
I wanted to know how you got to that example one.
I'm not sure, the template?
Yeah, the one that you can play around with.
Yes, you want to
Test
do the
copy.
play one. How did you get to the play one? How did you bring it up?
I'm not sure what you mean by the play one. So we
The
talked
test.
that copy that I made, if I want to bring up the copy and now play with it. Is that what you're asking, Kristen?
I think,
Yep, so
yeah.
I can just go back here to home, and here's the test copy one. So I can now just click that, and it now
Okay.
brings up my the copy that I made.
Okay,
So
thank you.
I've got two versions of it now, the test copy and the original. So I can go back and forth between the two. In fact, I can have them both open at the same time. Here's the original,
Mhm.
and then here's the test copy.
Okay.
All right, great. We got about 4 minutes left, so I do need to go on to the closing and wrap things up here. I do want to thank you for attending. Hope you enjoyed the class and learned some things about Excel. I want to mention a couple of related classes. The Excel Intermediate class, as I told you earlier, that picks up where we left off and keeps going with some additional Excel functions and features. That Microsoft 365 overview tells you about Microsoft 365. I didn't ask if there's any Mac users, but if there are any Mac users, we have a version of this class for Mac users. Microsoft 365 works pretty much the same on a Mac as it does on Windows, but there are some differences. This kind of calls out the things that are different if you're using a Mac instead of a Windows device. So in closing, after class, you will get an email. The first section in the email is class notes. I'm going to have some links in there to some websites that have information about Excel. If you, it'll go over some of the things we covered in class if you want to do some independent research. I'll also have links to those related classes. So if you want to take one of those related classes, you can click that link in the class notes section of the email. As always, you can refer the class to a friend via post on Facebook, or you can send a link via email. The Give Feedback link opens our feedback page. Only 2 questions. Rate the class 1 to 5 or rate the guide 1 to 5 and hit done. There's a place for comments. Comments aren't required, but they're greatly appreciated. And then quickly, we mentioned help it get set up. So again, if you want to get a copy of the recording, send an email to help it get set up and just be sure and reference the name of the class you want a copy of the recording of. If you would like to host an interest group, or if there's a class that you would like to see us teach that we're not teaching, or if you have belong to an organization or know of an organization you think would be a good partner for us, you can provide any of that information to helpitgetsetup.io. The last link, View Schedule, takes you to our website where you can book another class. I mentioned the live streaming at the top of the class. That's this link here where it says TV. So if you click TV, it will take you to Google TV. I think I'm probably in there right now. Okay, So it's moved on to the next, to the commercial in between the classes, since class is about over. But this will normally be showing you a class that's live. Again, the guide can't see you or hear you. You're watching it on TV. But if you watch a little bit of the class and you say, hey, that looks like a great class, you can just click right here to register for the class and take the whole thing. If you're looking for a class, the best way to find it is to use the search bar. So if you're looking for that Microsoft 365 class, you can just start typing Microsoft 365, and here's the Windows one, here's the Mac one. So if you want to take that class, you can click there. If you ever see this notify me, it means that the class, we only schedule for 2 weeks out. And some of the classes we do every third week or every fourth week. So it's not on the schedule. Instead of you having to keep checking back to see if it's available, if you say click notify me, we'll send you an email when it's back on the schedule available to register for. And you can click the link in the email to go straight to the registration page. So you don't have to keep looking to see if it's on the schedule for this week or not. And the last thing is that if there is a guide or several guides that you like their classes and you want to see what they're teaching for the next 2 weeks, just put their name instead of a class name in the search and hit enter. And these are my classes, and they're in chronological order, starting with the class I'm teaching later today, and then going out to Monday and through the rest of the next 2 weeks. If you see a class you want to take, Let's Talk Alexa, Smart Homes and TV, just click there and book the class. Okay, so we are at the end of the hour. I do want to thank you so much for attending. I hope you learned some things about Excel, and certainly hope to see you in one of my classes in the near future. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank
Bye
you.
now.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.